Kevin Roth here of Rotogrinders, and today we're going to talk about the RG Discord. If you're not a member, you should be. It is a fantastic community and resource that Rotogrinders provides, and it's easy to join as well. All you have to do is click the Discord icon on Rotogrinders or go to rotogrinders.com/Discord. From there, you'll either sign up if you're new to RG, or if you're already a member, just click the link at the top to go to the sign-in page. Once you've logged into your RG account, you can be taken to Discord to log in there. Once you've connected those accounts, you won't have to leave the server. You can freely close out and reopen Discord without ever having to reconnect. The idea of Discord might be a little bit daunting to you, but it's actually pretty simple to navigate. Whether you're on mobile or desktop, the far left side will show you the Discord servers that you've already joined. Then next to that, you'll see the channels within that Discord. We have both free channels like Chiefs Prop Shop and our daily sport channels, and we also have premium channels like Blender's Game Theory or the Crunch Time channels. Premium members can see the difference between the free and premium channels by looking for a padlock icon next to the premium channel names. We also have a few pointers for new and experienced users alike. If you're having trouble finding a channel, make sure that you haven't collapsed the section that the channel is in. Collapsing a channel will only allow it to appear when there are unread messages in that channel. Also, we find that using the actual Discord program works better than opening it in a browser like Safari or Chrome. Lastly, if you're having trouble with one of our tools, your Rotogrinders account, or any other technical needs, you can hop in our feedback and help section of channels to get help from one of our wonderful support and moderation team members. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter @Rotogrinders or email support@rotogrinders.com. See you in Discord.
What's up, Rotogrinders? Dean here, Dean7904. That is the daily fantasy handle around the industry here. It's the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Have a lot of fun pre-show with a returning champion from yesterday. TJ, how did things turn out for you? How did the teams go for you? I know you ran a bunch of lineups on FanDuel. To my knowledge, you didn't bink. I feel like I would have seen that somewhere, but to be salvaged at least.
No FanDuel binks, but we did salvage. I almost broke even there with the MME, but we were talking a little bit post-show and obviously a lot on the show about prize picks, and being on with Chief, I decided to dive in. So I made 2 prize pick teams. Both of them went 5 for 5. So now I'm sitting pretty.
I think you gave out a prize picks selection on the air. Is that what you gave out? The ones you picked? I think you picked them on air too, right? I feel like you did.
I had a couple that I liked on air, and then afterwards I was like selecting it and told Chief who it was, and he was like, "Yep, I agree. I think those will do well." And then yeah, bam, 5 for 5, 5 for 5. So a couple of 10X's there on my first night playing.
Awesome, congratulations. Is it just sort of new to Canada, or you just weren't really aware it was a thing? You just all of a sudden said, let's try it, let's dip our toes, or what?
So it's been in Canada for a while, but I didn't realize it because the app isn't available for some reason. So only the desktop browser is. And so I saw the app wasn't there and I just assumed I couldn't play, but I realized that I could do it on the desktop. And so, yeah, I made a few more today. I can talk about these picks on air today because I got them locked in beforehand. So this will be fun.
Yeah, sprinkle them in during the show. Of course, you mainly focus on DFS, but whenever you can give us some, underdog picks or prize picks or whatever, they're just regular sports gambling stuff. Myself and Grant were talking about it today on the Scores and Odds show about some gambling options. And I think, I don't know if we moved the needle, who even knows, but Dylan Brooks was one of the guys we were talking about it. I saw his numbers moved since our conversation as far as points today. I'm sure co-host as well. Luch, you write up stuff for Scores and Odds. You're living in the fabulous state of Tennessee, I believe, so you can wager real live American dollars on some selections. Do you happen to have any live ones for us? You want to give some out to the people? We have plenty of time. It's a 4-gamer. We're going to pace ourselves. We're going to enjoy ourselves. Maybe we'll have an intermission where TJ sings some Johnny Cash to us. So he's got his guitar on layaway. Who knows? Maybe he'll take some requests. He knows every Johnny Cash song, by the way, and you can't name one he's never heard of. We've established
Dean,
that pre-show.
Other breaking news, not quite in the NBA, but breaking news relevant to the show is Dean has never heard of hyperbole in his entire life.
That was just a shout out to the pre-show conversation. What's going on, Luch? How are things in your world?
Good. It's funny you mentioned location. I actually live in Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just like 800 miles off. But I mean, hey, it's ballpark, I guess.
Well, it's another state where you can sports.
Right country.
So.
True. Yeah. I do love Nashville, though. We were talking some Nashville. Yeah, I've been sitting here trying to log into my FanDuel Sportsbook, and it says we can't verify your location. You're not in a like legal gambling zone. And I can assure you that I rarely leave this desk from like 8 to 7. And this week it's been like more like 8 to 10 with all the late swapping I've been doing. So yeah, it looks like I'm going to be hunting for some props on my mobile phone while we are going through the show. But yeah, obviously some interesting moving parts with Memphis, and we'll get to that too. But things are good. I don't know anything about Johnny Cash really, so I'll bow out of that discussion. But yeah, anyway, yeah, we're gonna have a lot of time. It's gonna be a good show. And you know that I see you wearing that Blue Jays shirt. There's been a lot of chatter on Twitter about who's vaccinated, who's not. It's like, oh, Aaron Judge, not vaccinated with the Yankees, allegedly. Maybe he won't play home games. Maybe he can't play in Toronto either. And then, it's funny. We have my auction draft in Atlantic City coming up in like 2 weeks. And I'm so glad we pushed that thing off because I know we're talking hoops today, but just saw like Jack Flaherty's having shoulder issues and the dominoes are falling with some of these guys. And, at least we're getting 162 games and hopefully we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a 4-game slate. We got lots of time. We can't wait for baseball season. I'm actively checking my phone, hoping I see Freddie Freeman to the Blue Jays. But the AL East is not a good division not to be vaccinated in because you got New York and Toronto where they're screwed.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's different for basketball and the whole Kyrie thing. It kind of ties into the slate tonight. Of course, they're on the road, but it seems like it's been thrown out there that may change as far as letting Kyrie play the month or whatever the playoffs start. And maybe there'll be different rules for baseball because baseball outdoors, indoors. I have no idea. It's a whole. We'll see. I haven't thought that far ahead. I know Toronto. It's someplace where you can't play, or I don't know if you can enter the country. You wouldn't be able to play, obviously. But I didn't think as far as New York, as far as the similar rules. But my brain thought, well, it's outdoors, so maybe it's okay. And also, I think the rules are going to change, but we don't know.
I don't even know what.
Yeah,
I don't even know what day it is, Dean, because like I was so focused in golf with the the extra days we had with the tournament, and then for March Madness coming up, I've been editing and writing and talking about Thursday. And I thought today was Thursday for like the entire day, and I don't even know. So there's so much going on because quick turnaround in PGA, right? You have so many moving parts in MLB. Tom Brady's coming back, the NFL with free agency. It's like Twitter timelines have just exploded. Every time you pick up your phone, it's like I have FOMO of missing something.
I didn't get a chance to read the story, but I saw something that like Brady maybe was going to come back to Miami. Did you guys see that? That was an option, and somehow the Flores situation blew up.
Oh no!
I don't know. I don't want to be spreading any rumors, but I saw like something on that, and I'm like, oh, that seems interesting. I'll click on that. But I was reading basketball stuff at the time, and I got distracted. I didn't go back to it. But yeah, in an alternate universe, I suppose maybe Tom Brady's coming back to the Dolphins or something like that. But yeah, but the same thing you mentioned that TJ as a Blue Jays fan, my buddy Pepsi, old school people know Pepsi. He's got his hopes up too. Like he believes that he's coming to Toronto and Freeman that is, and I don't know. My brain suggests it's going to the Dodgers. Like that's kind of the chalk. Maybe the Yankees, of course, and that stadium, of course, is built for his swing. But yeah, man, if he goes to Toronto, that'd be a lot of fun. I'm rooting for Toronto. I'm rooting for the little guy.
It'd be a lot of fun, and just because like they've had this young, fun offense for so long, and now is the first time that they actually have a very competent looking pitching staff. It's the best starting five. I'm ready to talk basketball again. That I've seen them have in a long time. So yeah, I'm excited, and all they really need is another infielder. So
I guess would Vlad have to go to third base, or he would DH?
Yeah, third. He'd be rotating third and DH in that situation.
Yeah.
Every time I pick up my phone, there's one more team on Freddie Freeman, allegedly, though, right? So,
yeah.
I really thought it was going to be the Dodgers. The Dodgers get everybody at this point, but I don't know. The Olsen trade was pretty wild. I mean, it's like a tale of two tapes here because Braves fans are just crapping on Matt Olson and Freddie Freeman. Matt Olson's good. I mean, he's not Freddie Freeman, as we know, but the Braves did give up a nice little package, to
Kristen
get Olsen.
Pache.
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. Like, I don't know if this is hot takey or not. We'll talk basketball in a second. Don't worry, plenty of time. You guys tell me this is hot takey, but I'll take the Matt Olson deal for whatever the Freddie Freeman deal is. Like, I think it's a better deal. Of course, they gave up some prospects to put themselves in that position, yada, yada. Like, Olsen had this year and the next year, I think it was arbitration or something like that, 12 million this year. But he's 5 years younger than Freeman, and he's good. Like, Olsen's good, and he's going to smash in Atlanta. He's going to hit at least 40 homers there. And Freeman's going to have 2-3 bad years on that contract. Like, look at Giancarlo Stanton's contract the last 3 or 4 years, where he gets $40 million at age 30, 39, and he's already breaking down. Look at Albert Pujols. Freeman's not going to sign a 4-year deal. I don't think. He's going to be 6 or 7. I don't know. TJ, I love that Olsen deal for Atlanta. I think it works out for everybody. He's a hometown boy also.
Yep, same boat as you. I've always loved Matt Olson. Matt Olson has won me quite a bit of money, so I've always had a soft spot for him.
It's funny how you get the soft spot for those guys who are the 1%ers that take you over the top in the GPP. A couple of years ago, I won the alley-oop with Eric. Oh, here's another name I can't pronounce. I can't wait till the chat gets me. Last week it was Mark Kennan. And I think I'm going to change my Twitter name to Mark Kennan. Because why the hell not? But Eric Pascal, is that
Pascal?
Isn't that one of those a crayon that you draw with, or art pastels? But I won 100K with him. That was probably one of the most random players I've ever won 100K with. So Matt Olson
or Golden State version. What team was
Golden State on his birthday? So they say birthday narratives aren't real. Come on.
Steph on his birthday scored 47 points in the bucket.
It's true. And he didn't pop in any projections anywhere. I mean, he was on fire in the second.
That was one of the prize picks that Chief and I liked last night, over 23 points, and he absolutely smashed it.
Yeah. I think Desmond Bain is from the Indiana area, for the record, by the way. That's a good segue into our very first game of the night. Yes, we're talking tonight's 4-game NBA DFS slate. Memphis and Indiana. Memphis will be the most popular team as far as collective ownership. You're going to have, I guess we should mention John Morant, not officially ruled out, but did not practice. He was not at practice today. He's doubtful. We're assuming he's not going to play. These sites were not, this news was out there yesterday that he wasn't going to play. The sites were not reactionary. They're not proactive. Tyus Jones is just going to be the most heavily owned player on the slate. Anything less than 100% is probably wrong. The rest of the Memphis guys, well, they're all healthy, but John Morant matters so much. Usage monster. Dylan Brooks is back as well. And he played 25 minutes or so his first game back and shot the ball 14 times. And I'd imagine he takes a few more minutes. And I think the usage is going to be there because Dylan Brooks likes the fire. Indiana on the other side, we'll talk about that in a second. There's a bunch of questionables, but I suppose we should just get this out of the way. TJ, Tyus Jones, can you make any argument of I hate lock button, I hate free square, I just don't like to speak in sometimes we are hyperbolic and we speak and that's a lock button, but this is a lock button, right? How is Tyus Jones not a lock button today? 3.4K on DK, 4.2 on FanDuel. Give me the scenario where he's not a lock button.
On FanDuel, you can make a small case just because his price is higher and there's so many great guard options, especially if Brogdon's out. But no, let other people pay the rake like this, especially on DK. This is absolutely a lock button. For me, it will be on FanDuel as well. He just absolutely smashes anytime Morant is out of the lineup. Like right now, I think we have him projected for over 30 points on both sites, and he deserves it. He absolutely gets there. In the past, I'm not saying 100% of the time, because obviously there's injuries, there's foul trouble, but in the past, he gets there basically 100% of the time, anytime he starts for Morant. So he's in a smash spot. Brooks, that price tag is just absolutely too cheap. To me, there's a little bit more, he's more reasonable to fade just because if he doesn't get that minutes bump and he shoots poorly like he can, then that's possible he won't get there. But I think he's still a great play, and I plan on hopefully getting to him tonight. And Jaren Jackson Jr. sees a 5% usage increase without John Morant on the floor. So that's somebody that a lot of people don't usually look to go to just because they see Morant's a point guard. Jackson's a power forward, but he's over a 5% usage rate increase with Ja Morant off the court. So if he stays out of foul trouble, he's a great play. And the other guy I don't mind taking shots on. I mean, of course, Desmond Bane as well. Fantastic play. But the other guy I don't mind taking shots on just in case we see that foul trouble from Jackson. And this could be a very ugly, sloppy game is Brandon Clark. Because that's a guy that if it's any kind of garbage time, he can smash in the garbage time. But there's also other routes to him getting there, like they're down Morant. So that's just an extra body with minutes to go around. They like Jaren Jackson Jr. is prone to a lot of foul trouble. Never know, this game could go small if Batatse is out. And so Steven Adams could get taken out of it a little bit. So he has lots of range of outcomes on a small game slate. So I like taking shots on him.
All right. Yeah, I mean, the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be super, super popular. I ran some optimals.
Shout out to the Canadians, Brandon Clark and Dylan Brooks.
Clark's Canadian? All right, represent. And Dylan Brooks, I knew that one. Could we make an all like Canadian stack? Is there enough players? No, I guess not, right?
Maybe not, but I mean, you want to hear, we've been talking about hot takes and bold predictions, not the upcoming Summer Olympics, but the one after that. Canada's going to medal.
Okay. Hey, you know what? Steve Nash, Canadian, is the coach of Brooklyn. So you can just, if any Brooklyn players by proxy will be part of that Canadian stack.
Well, he there you go. Well, he also is the general manager of Team Canada. So
yeah, he's good at soccer too, football.
Yes.
Famously,
signed jersey right behind me here. Signed game worn jersey, Steve Nash.
Okay, tell us what it smells like. Can you open it up?
I mean, when I got it, it smelled fine. It seemed as though it's washed, but it's been in this frame for a long time, so I don't know if it still smells as fresh.
So again, depending on where you're shopping, DK, we're seeing 4 Grizzlies in the optimal. That's how important the absence of John Morant happens to be. I'll ask you the same question, Luce, as far as Ty Jones. Like, can you see yourself not playing Ty Jones in some lineups? Our ownership on it, I think, is a little low, to be honest. Maybe we'll give it a refresh. We have it around 50%. I think that's too low. I think it'll be higher.
I agree. I'm with you on that. I'm playing like 100 lineups tonight, so I probably will have a couple without him. I'm going to try to, group that the right way and make sure those are structured. But yeah, I mean, in his price range, in the matchup and opportunity, like, I don't think there's anybody with his ceiling and secure minutes, at least on FanDuel tonight anyway. I know he's a little more expensive there. But yeah, I mean, I hope the ownership is true, because the lower I see that number closer to lock, the more prone I am to being more aggressive on him. And, the Pacers are atrocious and, very high total there. 7-point spread. I mean, like, it's not going to be, Vegas doesn't think it's going to be a slaughter. I mean, it could be, but I think that's interesting. And I think TJ made a great point about Jaren Jackson Jr., who's like my Achilles heel. I feel like he's always in my best lineups when he has 4 fouls in 10 minutes. But for me, and you know what, like on small slates, it's tough. You need to correlate your builds, but last couple days ago, I think correlating my builds with Jaren Jackson Jr., I think prevented me from taking down the large field $9. I was like 9 points off optimal with a pretty low Jaren Jackson Jr. who had like 29. And I also had Jalen Suggs on my team who was like 5%. And he only played 22 minutes. So probably would have won. I don't think many people had one or the other in front of me. It is what it is, though. That's just the story of what we do. But I had Jackson I had SGA paired with either Jaren Jackson or Ja on all of my teams. So everywhere I had SGA, I had one or the other. I'm still an advocate of more oftentimes than not, it makes sense in the right situation. You have a 10K scoring dependent SGA who could get super blown out. You want to run him back. In this game, I'm not so sure. Small slate, you want to make sure some things are correlated, but it's almost like Showdown where correlations seem to matter less to finish in that top 1%. So I'm a little conflicted. I think on tonight's slate, I'm more focused on not pairing the guys I know that are going to run in blowouts with starters in that game at all. You know what I mean? But more importantly, getting back to Jaren Jackson Jr. is I like the Brandon Clark idea. That's one of the few groups I think I would like separate Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark. Like, I don't want them playing in the same lineup. That probably goes for maybe Steven Adams too. I'm not sure, but maybe like
I
two
have
of
that
the
group
three.
as we speak.
Perfect. We're on the same page there.
Where are you guys playing? You said you're playing 100 lineups tonight. Luch, you playing on DK? You're playing on FanDuel.
I'm on FanDuel, but I have DKs open too, so I'm interested to compare some prices here, and I might throw a single entry in on there too.
How about yourself, TJ?
Same thing with FanDuel. I currently just have one big main lineup. I'm debating throwing more in, but for my other podcast, I have a big Superman and Lois interview tonight. So I don't really want to find myself busy with that and then unable to adjust.
Are you interviewing Superman or Lois, or who are you interviewing?
Superman's son.
What's the guy's name? This is testing my knowledge.
Johnny Cash.
Jarrell?
That's his dad. So in the show, so his comic son is John Kent, but in the show there's John and Jordan, and I'm interviewing Jordan later. So
where is Superman Lois? Is that streaming somewhere?
It's a CW show, so like right now it just like runs every week on cable, but I'm sure it will be streaming. I think it may be HBO Max, but I'm Canada, so I don't have it.
Yeah, there you go. You got to get one of those VPNs or whatever, where you can kind of get anything anywhere if you just sort of work the system correctly.
I just don't want the DFS industry to and my FanDuel and DraftKings account to start getting mad at me. So I've kind of always avoided that.
That's a good point too. You never know what sort of wonkiness. Hey, you said you're putting in rules, Luch, as far as Memphis, right?
Yeah.
Do you know how many you're going to limit your teams to? 2, 3? Would you go up to 4? How many Grizz? Because they have plenty of bodies. Like they're going to run 10 guys. There's only one player out. The main guy. Right.
A lot of them are cheap. A lot of them are cheap, which kind of stinks. My rule of thumb is typically no more than 3. It varies depending on slate size. Like if it's a 2 or 3 gamer, but like 4, I'm still not sure if 4 guys are gonna take something down in a large field contest.
Yeah, like last night we saw 4 Clippers popping in optimals, but they were cheaper, but also the slate was bigger. It was like 9 games. Right. I think you can make 4 work in theory on a 4 gamer. But
depends what you're playing.
I don't think I'm getting the 4. I think I'm gonna go to 3. I think that's where I'm at most likely.
If you're playing super small field, I mean, you could probably get away with 4 because a lot of guys just eat chalk. But my rule of thumb is typically 3. And Dylan Brooks is so cheap. We haven't projected for 27 minutes. Looked pretty good. Played 25. I mean, he's a volume guy. He might take 20 shots in 25 minutes. So the minutes aren't an issue. So I wouldn't really group any of the cheap guards out. I don't know, but they have a ton of bodies, which is a double-edged sword, Dean. I mean, you're playing large field. I usually like to trim my player pool, but I'm having a little trouble with the Memphis situation here without Ja. Because there's been a while since we've seen no Ja in the lineup, which is great because he's great for basketball and it's awesome when he's healthy. But we've seen Conchar, we've seen Williams, we've seen Kyle Anderson. They all have 7x upside in 20 minutes against this Pacers team. So I want to keep them included in my pool, and I'm not crazy about those guys. But that's the case where I would definitely want a max of 1. I can see one of them getting there, whether it's 20 minutes of burn. We've seen slow-mo get it done. So I'm not exactly sure what the rotation is going to be. Even DeAnthony Melton is a pretty good per minute guy. He's 4,500 on DK, and probably similarly priced on FanDuel. But they have guys on Memphis who can get it done in a limited amount of time, which is kind of, some scary fades because you got to be perfect on a 4 gamer in the large field stuff.
TJ, I think you can have 7 Grizzlies in your pool. I think Jones, Brooks, Bain, Adams, Triple J, Anderson, and Clark. Is that reasonable? I don't think we get the Concher or Zaire Williams. Well, I guess you can get the Melton. I guess you could have 8 in theory.
Yeah. So I did just put in the 100 lineups on FanDuel. I decided I'm going to do it. Anytime I'm doing these shows, it's just so hard not to, because it's so much fun when you have the time at the end of it and you're breaking it down all individually. So yeah, I'm going to do the 100. I have 9 in the pool right now, but there's quite a few of them I will not be getting to very much. I have Conchar in the pool, but that'll be a 2 to 4% kind of thing, just in case. Kyle Anderson, I'm planning on not having very much of, but he's in the pool. And then same thing with DeAnthony Melton. I'm definitely not going to have a lot of, but I'll have him in there probably for just in case it's some kind of blowout and he gets some extra run time and then he goes off.
You think you have a read as far as how many Grizz is too many Grizz for you?
I'm probably only going to go 3.
Yeah. What's weird about this slate, like the overarching theme? what's weird to me, is that Obi-Wan in the background? I think it's Obi-Wan. What's weird to me is that, we have some scrubs, we have some cheapies we'll talk about. And Luch, I'll get your thought on it, because like Durant and Irving, I know they're both gonna be playing, they kind of eat each other to some extent, but like we're not spending up on them. Like they're not getting big ownership. Of course, some ownership is going to McCollum or Booker, like one of those two. But it's just sort of interesting, like two of the guys that are projected for the highest total are not going to be played on a slate where you have these cheapies that quote unquote make stuff work. Is that just me that thinks that's interesting? Maybe it's just me.
No, it's interesting. FanDuel, they're both carrying some ownership here. Let me just do a refresh on DK. What do you got in DK over there, Dean? Is that what you're looking at?
Let's see. On DK, I was looking at FanDuel. It kind of disappeared, but hold on. Let's see. They're
not getting a ton, but that's the thing is like they're both getting more than Booker, and I like Booker better. Like straight up for the price, not including ownership, I like Booker best, and he has an ownership discount.
I think I like Booker more than him as well. I was going through a potential assist. Booker's been back for 3 games of campaign, and we'll talk about that game. Obviously, that is the hammer at 8 o'clock. I don't know if you call an 8 o'clock game a hammer, but yeah, it's kind of a sprint slate how it's going down. 2 games at 7, 1 at 7:30, 8 o'clock. Phoenix versus New Orleans. McCollum expected back on the New Orleans side, and I'm assuming he's a full go. They wouldn't bring him back otherwise, coming back from a COVID issue. He's got Mikal Jail to worry about on the other side, but I think Booker's got a cleaner look. But the absence of Chris Paul, we've seen campaign basically take over that Chris Paul work. Not the same exact, but kind of sort of somewhat, getting a bunch of potential assists as well. But Booker can get those assists also, including the 30, 35 actual points in the bucket. But I just had a thought as far as Brooklyn, and I guess we'll complete that when we talk about the Nets in a second. Indiana is playing on the other side of this Memphis game. Or let me do this, Luch. As far as before we get away from Memphis, because I think they're super important. Can you prioritize, the guys you're seeking on Memphis? Can you power rank? Who are the ones you want the most? Are you making, I was going to say you're making at least one Grizz in every single lineup, and I assume that's Jones probably. Would you make a rule where at least 2 or just one is fine? Is that a rule as far as like minimum?
You could. Yeah. I mean, I don't see a way that none of them aren't optimal. So yeah. I mean, odds are, lineup HQ is going to probably spit out a Grizzly in most of your teams, if you're having a decent amount of all of them. But if you want to play it safe and make sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's, totally. But it's Tyus Jones. It's a price thing. And he, he's got a 40-point ceiling. I mean, you really can't beat that on this slate. He's by far the best value with the biggest upside is Tyus Jones. Dylan Brooks has no conscience. The volume's going to be there. It doesn't matter how he's shooting. He's only 800 more than Jones, so it has to be Dylan Brooks. I guess Desmond Bane is going to be my 4th fiddle, and some of that is a price thing. Now he still has a nice ceiling, but out of the main Grizzlies that typically do damage, he's probably going to be the least popular. Jaren Jackson Jr., my Achilles heel. Good old friend. His steals and blocks upside in this matchup is large as well here. So 6,400, you can't beat that tag on him in this matchup either. So for me, it's Tyus Jones, Brooks, and Jaren Jackson. But I will definitely have Desmond Bane exposure too.
Yeah, I'm on DK right now. I sorted by point per dollar, and Tyus Jones is expected to score 9 fantasy points per dollar, which is just absurd. Like he's projected the 9x. The next guy up is Dylan Brooks. This is all the teams. Everybody playing is also his teammate Dylan Brooks, who's projected the 6x. For what it's worth, let's see. We have Steven Adams is like the 6th best value. Bane is like the 8th best value at 6.7K. And then Kyle Anderson's like the 10th best value. I'm kind of ballparking that. Some stuff may change, of course, with Indiana, some of their body parts up in the air, but that's where we are right now. But TJ, like here's, we talk about general rules, and I generally don't like to play a guy that's going to be super heavily owned, that's super reliant on scoring points in the bucket, and that is Dylan Brooks. But like, man, he looks like such a good play today. But that's how he has to get there. He's not a guy that's going to he's only going to score 7, but he's going to get 7 rebounds and 6 assists. Like that's not going to happen. He scores 7 points, you're basically dead. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying that's a scenario. So how do you handle that? Like, I'm just, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel very similarly. And the part that scares me is that, like, the part that I like, sorry, I'm going to go with the positives first, is that small forward eligibility. And that's the thing that kind of gets me getting to him lots, is because there's tons of guards that I love and there's tons of power forwards that I love. But that's actually why I think I might end up getting to a bit more Brooks and Bane than I do Jaren Jackson Jr., or at least relatively close to the same amount, is because there's tons of power forwards that I like and tons of centers that I like. I want to play Wendell Carter. I want to wait. As soon as we get this Batadze news, I want to know if I can be hammering lots of Isaiah Jackson, because right now we got him at 20% ownership and I'm planning on getting way above the field there if Batadze's out. So because of that, I really like Brooks and Bane. And Brooks, yeah, the ownership is scary, but like, I guess 30% on a 4-game slate, is that really that much?
No, I think it'll be higher though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe that's just my opinion. I mean, that is just my opinion, but I think it'll be higher than 30. Like, it's not going to be 70, but I think it's higher than 30. And I also play in contests that condense ownership. I play like in single entry and 3-man stuff. And, I don't really care so much about the 50,000 entries where 30% up top. Like, that's just not for me. So my brain doesn't work for that way, if that makes sense. Hey, before we move on to Indiana, I know you kind of did it before, TJ, but you can kind of run it back. Power rank your priority as far as the Grizz, as far as the, who you factoring everything in, obviously.
Jones number 1, Brooks number 2, Bane and Jackson kind of 3A, 3B. Jackson, I think, has the higher upside, but I like the positional flexibility we get from Bane a little bit more. And then Brandon Clark, number 5.
Should mention, if you guys have any questions, well, plenty of time for questions, and not just like, this guy or that guy. If you want like general strategy stuff that we basically can't get into some games, or just good strategy questions or deep thought strategy questions, tonight will be the night to ask those, because we will have time for that. When we're having a 12-game slate tomorrow, we almost definitely won't be able to give a good answer on it. I think it's a 12-gamer on Friday as well. Thursday, 1-gamer. I assume Crunch Time will be on the YouTube, and we're not going to be on. But Crunch Time will be on. You guys can get a taste of a premium. Unfortunately, they really can't show off too much of their skills on a 1-game slate. They'll do their best with the Pistons and the Magic. Enjoy that one. Where do you guys leave those comments? If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and jump into the Rotogrinders Discord channel, rotogrinders.com/Discord. The live stream chat, that is a channel that is free. It is not premium. There are some premium channels. That is a non-premium channel. Join the conversation. Ask any sort of question that's on your mind. If you want us to elaborate on it, again, tonight will be a good time to, we'll talk about the slate, of course, but anything in general as far as DFS. If you're new, this can be imposing if you're just going to get in the taste, getting your feet wet. All right, same deal with Memphis before we move on, Luch, as far as Indiana. Just, can you power rank your favorite Grizz?
Again, is this a loaded question? All right.
Oh, did I ask you? I already asked you.
I think so. Did I freeze for that part?
Did it change in the last 2 minutes?
I have all this Johnny Cash streaming is messing up my internet. Let me turn that off. Bad. That's okay. Yeah. So no, it's Brooks. Oh my God! Now you got me all screwed up.
You can't. So if you switch them now, we're gonna say
it's Jones 1, Brooks
Thank you.
2, Jackson 3, Bane 4.
Yeah, and it's not 5? This. It's not this. Who's 5? I have to think about 5.
Clark or Anderson.
The Pacers.
Yeah, it's probably slow-mo.
So the Pacers, we don't really know, because Lance Stevenson's questionable. He's got an ankle. Brogdon's got a new injury. This is a concussion. I assume it's just either he passes the test or doesn't pass the test. He's currently questionable. You mentioned Gogo Batadze. He's got a foot, so he's questionable. And Duarte's got a toe. He's questionable. Three smalls, 1 big, and Batadze. And yeah, big old fluid situation. If Brogdon and Duarte and Stevenson don't go, you got to think that Halliburton will be unleashed tonight. But there's a lot of if-then stuff, TJ. I don't know how you want to handle the Pacers. You kind of referenced talking about what Isaiah Jackson, really strong fantasy point meta player, super handsy, 6.5 personal fouls per 36 minutes. He would foul out if he played 36. He's not gonna play 36 anyway, but he doesn't need to when you consider his price. But yeah, like, what can we say now, like that, because it's all sort of up in the air and it may change, and we shouldn't waste our time.
Well, what else? I mean, so the annoying part is we will know this before lock, and there's even a good chance we can know this before the end of the show. So I feel like we don't even have to spend a ton of time now because there's a very good chance we'll be able to go back and revisit. But the interesting thing for me is like there's 4 guys with Q tags right now. If they are all out, this team is as appealing as Memphis is tonight. Like we're gonna want to just be firing all of these guys up. If they're all in, I don't really know if I want to get to any of these guys in large capacities at all. The Brogdon one, I don't know if you guys have a lean if he's going to be in or not, or not. I haven't really heard much about what's going on with his protocols. I almost hope he's in just because there's so many guards I like tonight that I will just be fine getting to not ignore Halliburton and Brogdon, but have a lot less of them than I otherwise would have and focus on some other guys. But if Brogdon is out, Halliburton is as strong of a play as any of these quote unquote pay up options tonight. I know he's not as expensive. And then if Duarte and Stevenson are out as well, that's when you can really start looking at firing up guys like Dwayne Washington, who's a strong per minute producer as well. Isaiah Jackson
need to be out there, right? I think for Washington, I think both would have to be out for both Duarte and Stevenson.
2 of Stevenson, Duarte, and Brogdon would have to be out.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And then if we get Batadze out, I think all of Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson, and Oje Brissett are all you can definitely take shots on them. However, that's probably a group I'd probably limit to only one of the 3 of them.
Yeah. What do you want to add to that, Luch? Because would you agree that if we get Brogdon out, that Halliburton all of a sudden jumps into the Booker and McCollum conversation?
Yeah, but my gut says these guys play just from like
Chris Duarte will play. It's starting to come in as we speak. Lance Stevenson will play. Brogdon will play.
Literally spoke it into existence. At least I did one thing right today.
But Tatse is still a game time decision. And this is super good for all of my prize picks. If you can go in and get them before you oh wait, no, this is bad. Never mind. So maybe go in and take some unders on Halliburton.
Bet under on Indiana guys now.
Yeah, bet under on your Indiana guys now. I got 2 over 30.5 on Halliburton for points, rebounds, and assists. But that was one of those ones like the Raptors guys last night that it's like, even if these guys are in, I still don't mind that for him because that feels pretty low.
Yeah, it's a nice you could gain some nice leverage if they're out, but like you're not totally dead even if they play kind of thing. So I get it. But Halliburton really hasn't shown that ceiling at this price with Brogdon. And Brogdon was an animal right from the rip when he came back. Obviously he saw the price bump too. I think you started talking about it, TJ. I think I'm with you. Like these guys are active. I don't really have a ton of interest in maybe anybody outside of Brogdon. Now, if Goga sits, I definitely want to go back to Isaiah Jackson. I was super overweight on him the other night when he came in low, which I was really happy about. Unfortunately, I couldn't get there. He went off, and I thought I was going to have a team alive at the end, but I didn't. Strong point per minute guy. Goga matters. I know he's dealing with a little bit of a body part, like you said, Dean, but from some of the coach speak I've been seeing from some of these Pacers beat writers today, 4-game slates are great, by the way, because you actually have time sometimes to like see what each team's talking about. It seemed like that was just second leg rest day. It seemed like maintenance. When those guys miss. So I feel like Goga's going to play, but now it's a little bit easier to start building a little bit now knowing these other guys are in, which is great. 88's tough for Halliburton to pay, Buddy at 71. I'm super indifferent about. Jalen Smith's too expensive. If Goga's in, he's probably too expensive regardless at 63. Coming off a nice game, but again, there was a lot less bodies on the court and more usage for guys like Jalen Smith. So I guess I still have like minor large field interest in Duarte just because of that 4,800 price on FanDuel. But this really feels like a team where if Goga's in, I might like max of 1 indie guy on each team potentially. I think so. It's Brogdon for me. He's just been playing so well. It's not a great price, but I think he's kind of a contrarian run back, at 7,900 on this slate. It's not fantastic, but wow, still looking to carry almost 30% ownership. That's kind of nuts. Maybe this will change.
I think that'll change. Right.
What do you guys think about Duarte as a super low owned pivot off Brooks?
It's not my favorite, but I totally get the theory. It's
one of those things that I don't really love it, but like playing 100 lineups like you're going to be in, like I'm going to be now, I feel like that's something I might want to make a close to optimal looking lineup that has Bane and Tyus Jones in it, two guys that would likely succeed if Brooks isn't doing well, and have Duarte in that other small forward spot for a ton of leverage.
I mean, how much of the field do you think is just going to plug in Brooks and Jones? A lot. And I mean, as much, Brooks is going to get the volume, and I think he's a great play, but we've seen him stink a lot. Like, he's not always the most efficient shooter, even with 20 shots. So if he goes for 5X at 4,900, like, that might not take down a tournament, even on a 4-game slate. It won't kill you, but your goals, first or last, shake and bake, Ricky Bobby, right? So I totally get it.
I really like Brooks is a guy tonight. I mean, we're back on Memphis, but Brooks is a guy tonight I don't think I want to let make or break my slate. He's somebody I think I want to get right at the field on, just because he's a volume guy and he could put up 50 or 5. And both of those outcomes are probably pretty close to as likely as each other. Maybe 5 is a bit more likely than 50, but like ceiling and floor, he's an incredibly volatile player. He can hit both equally likely. So with all these guys in, I still want to wait on Batatse. I'm going to have some interest in their bigger guys, but with all these guards in, I'm not going to have a ton of interest. And it's a perfect time to start talking about Brooklyn, because we just got Seth Curry and Cam Thomas ruled out.
Oh, great. I just wanted to make the point, like, kind of hashed it over. It was mentioned, but Isaiah Jackson, like, really, really good fantasy point minute player so far, especially on FanDuel, a better stock player, 1.33 fantasy points per minute. That's awesome. That's elite. That's clearly the best. That's the best on his team. That's better than anybody on Memphis. That's a big old number, and it's pretty solid on DK as well, 1.25. We're not projecting him for an incredible amount of minutes. I think we're somewhere in the mid-20s. That would change, of course, if Batatse doesn't play. I feel like Taylor would probably jump in the rotation. He started last game. I think it's weird. Maybe this is just me, TJ. Why is Taylor like not even projected for a minute? Did I miss something? Is he like in the G League?
I don't know. That was a little bit off for me too, because like we have him in the starting lineup page.
Yeah.
But looking around the industry, I don't really see too many other people projecting him for anything either. So maybe that'll change if Batatse is out. Maybe that'll change, but that's another guy that we've seen have a very high ceiling, and on a 4-game slate, I don't think it's unreasonable to take shots on if you're playing lots of lineups, but not somebody unless he happens to be starting for some crazy reason, which I doubt with Brogdon and Duarte and all these guys playing. But if he's hopped in the starting lineup, then I think you can start considering him and I think he becomes a very good play for your single entries and your cashes. But if he's not in the starting lineup, I wouldn't touch him unless you're MMEing.
Oh, yeah, there's a real chance he drops a 0. Like, it doesn't just CMP, CD. I just thought it was peculiar. And like you said, he had some situations earlier in the year where they were just he was the tallest guy available. It's like, I guess you're playing center. He's not really a center, and he got absolutely work, but he also put a fantasy points too. Just was put in an unfair situation, obviously. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Brooklyn. You said the news just broke there. Brooklyn and Orlando, 232.5 is the total. Brooklyn is a 10-point favorite. And we did have what Seth Curry was questionable. Now you said he's officially out. Cam Thomas officially out. Good Lord. We're going to talk about Patty Mills, aren't we? And Goran Dragic, the Dragon, Goran Dragic, could become a thing as well too. As far as the body parts during the rest of the game, well, Orlando was kind enough to give us their starting lineup earlier today. Like, I've never seen it that early. You guys are telling us the starting lineup like 7 hours in advance. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was very nice. And I just thought, never mind. I can hold this now that I'm talking about it. I already interrupted. I gotta bring it up because it just blew my mind when I saw it. But apparently the unvaccinated Yankees are Judge, Cole, Stanton, Gallo, and Voit, among others.
Everything's fine.
They're not going to have a lineup.
Everything's fine. We're good. Ooh, no worries here.
Toronto's going to be lobbying not to change any. Well, I guess they're not changing their laws anytime soon. I don't think. You would better know that better.
I doubt it. Honestly, I've been trying to go out of my way to limit to what I've listened about that, just because Canada's pretty quickly turning into the United States in terms of us against them, our beliefs against theirs type of stuff going on. So back to basketball. It was really nice that Orlando gave us this stuff nice and early in the day. It confirms to us that we know RJ Hampton is going to be a nice little value option that is picking up almost no ownership, it seems, which is wild. I
He's
definitely
not good is the problem. He's
No,
no,
but
but he's not good.
it's a 4-game slate and he's super low owned. Like if you want to play Booker and Durant, he's a very easy way along with Jones to make it happen. I feel like the reason he's not very high owned is because you have Jones there as the chalk,
Yes.
obviously, and then you also have McCollum and Booker and Kyrie Irving and all of these other guys. But the fact that he's in the 3Ks, he's starting. It's a 4-game slate. I'm definitely going to be taking shots on him. If he's really only going to be 10% owned, I'll be over the field on that. But on the Brooklyn side of the ball, I guess you have to sort of like a little Bruce Brown now that Seth Curry's out, but like I don't want to. There's just so many other guard players that I like better. On DK, I like Bruce Brown a heck of a lot better because he's small forward eligible and he's cheaper. So Bruce Brown over there, I don't mind getting to because small forward isn't the strongest position today compared to some others. So without Curry, I don't mind Brown over there on DK. You can take some shots on guys like Goran Dragic, but I like Hampton better tonight. And I obviously like the Memphis guys way better tonight. Nick Claxton is not very interesting on FanDuel, but he's incredibly interesting on DK. He's, I think he's still in the 3K 3.9 there. Yeah. So he's still below 4K there. I think he's interesting, or Drummond. I think realistically, one of these guys should smash tonight. So I don't mind getting overweight on both of them and just making a rule that I would only want to get one.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Hampton is he's going to play a bunch of minutes too, right? His minutes seem pretty secure in the absence of Suggs. Harris is available for what it's worth. I think even if this game turns ugly, I think Hampton's one of those guys that is starter / potential mop-up guy, right? Like I think he's one of those guys who can be both of those. It doesn't happen very often.
And so I know we're going to touch more on Orlando, but just so I don't forget about it, on DK, I love Markelle Fultz as a tournament play tonight. This is something Stevie and I both talked about on the Morning Grind podcast. He really, really liked Fultz today. And one of these days, he's probably going to get that 23 minutes instead of 19 minutes. And we don't know when it's going to happen. But especially with Suggs out and Hampton in the starting lineup, Fultz is just going to see all of the second unit usage and playmaking. And so even if he only gets 19 minutes, it's a 4-game slate. He could still have 28, 30 points in those 19 minutes. If he happens to get 23, that's how you win a tournament.
Yeah. So his usage has been really strong, 24%, and his fantasy points per minute have been incredible, like thriving in the second unit. You referenced it, 1.32. Like that's got to be like way above any sort of career high he has coming into the season. Of course, it's in smaller doses. Of course, he's probably not going to play beyond 20 minutes. I suppose they might, I don't know what the incentive is to lift that, lid off. I don't think he's going to combust on the court if he plays 21 minutes. I think he'll be fine. It's just a matter of the team saying, well, sure, why not? But of course, Orlando's going nowhere. And what is their incentive to push him at this point? Probably none, unless they just want to reward him or let's just see what he does for a couple more minutes. And yeah, but like you said, he can, in theory, get there in 19 minutes. And this is something I think you can play on a 4-game slate and not so much on a 9-game slate, that kind of approach. And he is cheap enough, right? Well, FanDuel, I wouldn't do it. At 5.4, I wouldn't do it. Maybe you'll do it. I don't think I would at 5.4. 4.2 on DK, I would. You'll play some Fultz at 5.4 on FanDuel? I don't think I will.
No, I'm not going to on FanDuel, and I'm not even playing on DraftKings, but that's why I wanted to make sure I shouted it out before I forgot about it, just because I think he's a good DraftKings specific play tonight. While we're still before we get off of the Brooklyn side, I feel like I'm not super fond of the projection. This probably hasn't been updated for Seth Curry being out, but right now we currently have Kevin Durant projected for 38 minutes and but only 48 fantasy points. And so with Curry off the court, with Harden off the court, with Aldridge off the court, Durant sees a 36% usage rate this year and 1.52 fantasy points per minute. That's fantastic. doesn't seem like he's getting enough attention tonight, unless that's going to go up, like unless that projection goes up and that ownership goes up with like the news of Curry out. But if it doesn't, like I love that. Like I honestly, like I understand 38 minutes seems like an aggressive projection. And I feel like maybe more 36, 35, just because there's a good chance that Brooklyn could take it to them a little bit. But yeah, like I feel like that projection should be a little bit higher on him. And then on the Brooklyn side, the one guy I really like, it's very site specific, like we're talking about. Fultz on DK, I think, is a great play. On FanDuel, Wendell Carter Jr. is just way too cheap over there, and I really like him tonight.
I want to bring in Luch, but I think look, I don't like to overreact to small samples and stuff like that. But since the All-Star break, defensive rating, the absolute best team in basketball, defensive rating wise, you know who it is, Luch?
Not the Orlando Magic.
It is the Orlando Magic. Again, I tried to freak out over small samples and stuff like that. 9 games, 2 and 3, by the way, also playing in the slate, Miami and Phoenix. But I just thought that was interesting. I know I'm not saying you can't play Brooklyn against them, and just acknowledging it. I guess that's interesting. I don't know what to do with that, but okay, good for Orlando.
Nothing. You just
by the way,
put it in your back pocket and you just move along.
yeah. I mean, it's just interesting, I suppose, more than anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
But maybe there is something there. I have no idea. But yeah, well, we'll talk Wendell Carter. We'll talk about it in a second. We actually, let's talk about Wendell Carter. Let's talk about the Magic. We'll move over to Brooklyn. Our projections just updated as far as Brooklyn as well. If you guys are on the lineup HQ, just give it the old refresh. It's now updated as of 5:36 on the East Coast. But yeah, Luch, your thoughts as far as the Magic? I think Carter is a really strong play today. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. But you know, the absence of LMA, that front court for Brooklyn's pretty rough. If this game stays close, I think it's probably because Carter's doing things. Yeah, probably my favorite player in Orlando is Carter. And I will play some Hampton begrudgingly, but he should play 34, something like that, low 30s as far as minutes. They seem pretty secure in the absence of Suggs. What do you have as far as the Magic?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed a lot of good points there. No Suggs is big for Cole Anthony, who's still really cheap. Had a really good fourth quarter and overtime session, you know, looking at lineup HQ and looking at our game flows here. He had like pushing 19 fantasy points in the last 12 total minutes of game time. But, you know, Suggs definitely wasn't in any of that. He left in the third quarter, unfortunately. So we know those two negatively correlate, and, you know, it was good to see him close strong, because it's been a while since we had a Cole Anthony ceiling game, and there's a chance you have it tonight. And I think that's one of the Cole Anthony is a big factor in Kevin Durant getting to that aggressive 38-minute projection. So like this game has to stay some kind of close for Durant or Kyrie to hit those ceilings at those price tags. And maybe the price is scaring some people away. You know, maybe more people are looking towards the Booker, McCollum, you know, a little bit cheaper kind of look on FanDuel, which is fine. And I think they're good plays too. But I think, you know, pairing Durant or Irving with someone from Orlando is pretty integral here for them to pay off their ceilings as well. And, you know, Brooklyn is not good defensively unless you're going to throw me some top tier out of left field Brooklyn metric that I wasn't expecting. But I actually didn't know the Magic thing, but I you know,
Brooklyn fourth worst, by the way, since the All-Star break.
Well, some things remain consistent, I suppose. So someone from Orlando is going to smash tonight. You know, Wagner's been terrible, but there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen now with Fultz back in the fold. You know, Suggs playing for the most part, but he's playing, you know, he should play like 33, 35 minutes if the game's competitive. He's, you know, 5'7", 5'5", something like that. You know, he's a guy with we've seen him have ceiling games before too. Love Wendell Carter. You guys are absolutely right. You know, Brooklyn is forever thin in the front court on the glass. And, you know, I think I'm just reiterating here. I'm pairing these Brooklyn studs with somebody from Orlando. I'll set some kind of group here. But
I agree with Luch completely there. And I think it's very site dependent. I think if you're playing on DK, I really like doing it with Fultz and Hampton. Fultz or Hampton probably, just because they have the best price tags over there. On FanDuel, Cole Anthony is nice and cheap. Wendell Carter Jr. is nice and cheap. I think that makes for a great mini game stack. Yeah. And over on DraftKings, I have a hard time believing on a 4-game slate, unless one of these other games goes to triple overtime, double overtime, something like that, and it's a big game stack that takes down first, I have a hard time believing one of Drummond, Claxton, or James Johnson won't be in the optimal lineup. Like, either if Drummond gets a bunch of minutes, 5'8", 5'5", way too cheap for him. On FanDuel, Claxton and James Johnson are priced up. On DraftKings, they're not. So if Drummond doesn't get the minutes, that means one of Claxton or James Johnson are getting the 5 minutes. And if those guys get 25 minutes, both under 4K, one of them is probably going to be in the optimal lineup. So if I'm playing lots of lineup on DraftKings, I'd probably want to be cognizant of that one of those 3 guys is probably going to smash based on those price tags.
So I'm going to say a name you guys are not going to want to hear, but like general rules, back to my general rules, like anybody, you have to be willing to roster anybody for the right price, willing to not roster anybody for the wrong price. Patty Mills is 3.5K on DK. We're presuming he's going to jump in the starting lineup. We're presuming he's going to play 30 minutes, alongside Durant and Kyrie, guys that in theory should get him some open threes. Mills has been rough, but different circumstances. We paid like 6K for this guy. Of course, all our players are out and all that kind of stuff, but I think he's 3.9 on FanDuel. TJ, does he do anything for you? Are you willing to like pepper him in your 100 lineups? If you're, if you see that Mills draws a start, we're looking at 30 minutes there, 29 for Dragic for what it's worth.
If he does start, I think you can take shots on him if you're playing lots of lineups. If he's actually going to be 20% owned and in the starting lineup, like that's a number I would definitely get under the field on. I'd rather play RJ Hampton at lower ownership. I'd rather play Markelle Fultz on DraftKings. Having said that, like, I guess there's no point really speculating too much because we'll get this news before lock, but I wouldn't be surprised if they start James Johnson instead of him. Like it wouldn't shock me if with the big lineup that Orlando puts out there with kind of 2 center thing, it wouldn't shock me if they run James Johnson there in the starting lineup instead of going another guard.
You got a thought in that, Luch, as far as the Patty Mills and Dragic and
even somebody like off the board like Kessler Edwards? Like I could see them just going a bigger body there instead of another guard.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see James Johnson pop in that starting lineup. 5,100 on FanDuel, just gonna hit the X button regardless if he starts or not. Much cheaper on DraftKings. I just checked the discrepancy there, but man, I guess the only thought I've had for Patty Mills, it's 30 minutes, 18 points is terrible. Poor guy. I'd probably just separate Mills and Dragic. I just can't see a path where they both get there. Good to see Dragic play like 38 minutes the other day. I wasn't sure if that was a personnel thing or if he was just waiting 2 weeks to get his legs back under him. But he's another guy whose minutes are probably volatile and might be a little tough to project here. So I am also curious to see who runs more here, between Dragic and Mills, and we have them similarly projected. 2 guys that won't play in blowouts either at all, like because they're the elder statesmen of the league now, Mills and Dragic, I would think anyway. So
who else would be their point guard though? Like all their other eligible guys, if it's a blowout, are all huge.
Yeah, I Cam Thomas is out, and which is a shame. He's kind of out of the rotation anyway. I like Cam Thomas.
Like is David Duke still on the roster? Can Kessler Edwards play point guard? Like I feel like it would have to be a wildly big blowout for none of these guys to be getting blowout run at point guard. And I almost like, not that 2 of them can't succeed, but I'd almost add Kyrie Irving to that group as well with Mills and Dragic, that I only want one of them just because there's so many great guards on the board tonight that I don't want 2 Brooklyn ones.
Yeah, and if Irving gets in early foul trouble, then there's a good chance one of those 2 cheapies smash for sure, and you don't want them together.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is that my favorite of the 3 on DraftKings between Mills, Dragic, and James Johnson, for if one of them were to step into the starting lineup, would be James Johnson. If we don't get that news before we're off here and it happens in crunch time, something like that. But overall, these Brooklyn guys, I think, other than the studs, are just mix and match pieces that you make sure you want to, if you're playing lots of lineups, definitely want to be mixing in one of these cheap guys into the odd lineup, because it's tough to predict which one, but one of these cheap guys for Brooklyn will likely smash.
According to our chat, just keep an eye on this, and we'll know eventually. Ja is apparently intending on warming up for whatever that's worth. He's still officially doubtful, still officially a game time decision, but just kind of be aware of that situation.
My best guess is he wasn't at shoot around, and so like this is going to be like his workout of the day, but we'll see.
Oh, you guys are playing on FanDuel. The FanDuel single entry series continues this week, started yesterday. Different price points. I believe there's 2 versions today and this week. The $1 version, and if you want the big boys, the $2.22 single entry version. Go ahead and check that out on FanDuel.com. If you guys are playing March Madness stuff, scoresandodds.com, they have you covered there as well, amongst all the other sports. That's worth checking out. And we talked about some baseball. If you guys want to get your baseball seasonal pass, you can get the full season now at a discount, $250. That'll be in the description on YouTube, the link for that, or go to rotogrinders.com. All right, 2 more games to talk about. My Miami Heat are at home versus Detroit. The Pistons are 14-point dogs right now. 214.5 is the total. So not a very big number. And Detroit, obviously big dogs there. Miami, pretty healthy. The only one we're seeing on the injury report right now is Caleb Martin, who's not playing basketball tonight because he's got a knee. Detroit, Cade Cunningham, who's just been insane of late, playing incredible minutes, making some sort of late push for Rookie of the Year. He's not going to get it, but a good run. He's questionable, not feeling particularly well. He had the fish, but Hamidou Diallo is also out. We're expecting Beef Stew to be back. Isaiah Stewart is available, not on the injury report. Killian Hayes also available too. Magruder revenge game is available with his hamstring. Well, I mean, TJ, Detroit really predicates on Cade Cunningham in or out, and it's a midday downgrade, and these tend to go the wrong way. But we're kind of at the mercy of news, and we don't know, and this is kind of if-then stuff, but have at it. We'll tackle Detroit for me.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on to the next one. Honestly, like I think Jeremy Grant on FanDuel is reasonable at some shots, but I don't love him. Sadiq Bey, same thing, especially if Cunningham is out. Grant and Bey, all of a sudden their price tags look pretty appealing. But even these guards like Hayes and Joseph, like if they were in the low 3Ks, I'd have more interest, but they're priced up above 4K, and it's really tough to see them having crazy ceilings against this Miami team. So Miami's just too strong of a defense. I don't love it. If Cunningham is out, you can take shots on Bey and Grant on FanDuel. And if Cunningham's in, I think you can take shots on him, but it's just a tough team to love against this Miami, in this Miami matchup.
Yeah, I mean, they allow the fewest paint points as well, just really good defensively overall. Best way to get them is via the 3-ball. So, if you want to roster a shooter, I suppose. I mean, if Cunningham is out, like, and this game gets ugly, like Magruder's a guy that will mop up. But just kind of looking at their roster, like Liver is also, like, they only have 10 guys. They would go down to 9 if Cunningham isn't a go. Kelly O revenge game could be kind of sort of someone interesting. I don't know how many minutes. Have they even pushed him like in any kind of game beyond like 25 minutes this year? Unless I missed it. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
And they've had some blowouts. I don't think he plays much blowouts because they just kind of keep his minutes down. Just wondering who would play if this.
They want to save him for the playoff push.
Who would play? Who are the last 5 guys on the court for Detroit if Cunningham is out and they're getting blown out? That's kind of the question I'm asking, because it's Livers, Magruder, Bagley, Hayes.
Jackson's still out.
Jackson's still out.
I guess maybe Joseph. Maybe he just stays.
But there's no reason to get him minutes, but I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just wondering in that scenario.
If Cunningham is out, the most exposure I will have to this team will be Rodney Magruder and Isaiah Livers, and it will be 1 to 2 lineups out of 100.
I don't think Magruder is completely insane if Cunningham is out on DK, because it's possible he starts and he mops up too. And you're relying on those 3-pointers, and that's one thing Miami can yield. But again,
and the thing is too, is like if Cunningham's out, I don't think I'm going to play anybody on Miami.
Well, that's the other thing, is like Miami's going to win this game like 113 to like 87 or something like that.
And I mean, yeah, we're obviously very highly rating number 3 rookie of the draft, Cade Cunningham. But shout out
Scotty Barnes number 2.
Yeah. Shout out Scotty Barnes. Yeah, if Cunningham's out, it's tough to think that this game stays close. And even if it like, they could score 60 points. Like, even if this is a blowout and garbage time players get like all the entire fourth quarter run, like they just might not score. And so it's tough to
really low.
It's tough for me to like any of these guys for either team if Cunningham's out. If Cunningham is in, Jimmy Butler's price tag is cheap enough. Bam Adebayo is cheap enough that I might want to take a shot there. One prize picks thing that I like tonight is Kyle Lowry over 10.5 points. Just because that's a very low number. I think it's reasonable that he could hit that. And other than that, like if you're MMEing, maybe you can take a shot on Markieff Morris, who showed up back last game and played 17 minutes in his first game back. Like, I don't love it, but small forward, power forward eligibility, if you want to have a crazy lineup where you're spending up for Durant and Booker and other guys all in the same lineup, sure, you could put it in there, but definitely nobody that I aggressively want to get to, and I probably won't get to much at all.
It's such a cluster with Miami, with now Oladipo back and Morris back, and just not enough minutes to go around. Like Martin's out, and it's a squeeze, right? A lot of these guys.
Like, yeah, especially if Cunningham is out, I would rather play Dwayne Dedman or Markieff Morris than any of the starters on Miami.
Well,
just
Dedman,
in case it's a blowout,
and yeah,
like if it's a blowout and they get 5 extra minutes and happen to score 28 points or something like that at 3K, that could be huge at 2% owned.
I like the Bam price on DK. 8.2K I think is pretty good. He's going to be in my pool, and I'm good with Butler at 8.6, but yeah, I don't, it's fine. I don't know if I'm forcing it. Jump in here, Luch. What are your thoughts as far as this game? We're both kind of poo-pooing this game. Do you kind of feel similar?
I don't know. We're going to find out how much Cade Cunningham matters tonight. I was trying to find out the last slaughter they've been in, and it's been a while. Like,
they've been pretty good. They've been competitive of late.
They've been really competitive for the Pistons. I mean, they lost by 4 to the Clippers, lost by 11 to the Celtics, lost by 6 to the Bulls, 3 to the Hawks, 5 to the Pacers.
I believe they have the most losses within 5 points of any other team.
3 to the Wizards, beat the Hornets, 9 to the Celtics. When is the last like slaughter? It was the Grizzlies back in February. Well, the Hornets. February they had some clunkers. But I'm curious to see. Obviously, the Heat are very good defensively. They're fully healthy. This game seems like it just sucks because there's not, it's like you said on the Miami side, they're healthy, which is great for them, great for real life basketball, great for Dean, the fan, but bad for us, the fantasy player who wants to take advantage of usage rates and more minutes and things like that. But I do think some of the prices are appealing. I don't mind having Butler shares. I don't mind having Bam shares. I probably won't have Hero, who's been really good though lately. Kyle Lowry is still really cheap. Like, is he ever gonna get there? Maybe 6,200 against a bad team. It's possible. He's been playing the minutes, but like you said, there's a lot of body parts there. His usage has been terrible. I mean, he's played 4 games of 30 plus minutes, and in 3 of them he's taken no more than 4 shots or 3. I mean, like, it's just.
Wasn't there a game where he didn't score? Like, he played like 30 minutes and not score?
Yeah. He changed bodies with Tony Snell. So like
Freaky Friday.
Yeah, his 62 price tag is warranted. So we're gonna find out how much Cade Cunningham matters, and I have similar feelings about Jeremy Grant and Sadiq Bey, except now they're like a grand cheaper than they were 2 weeks ago. They're 66, 67, and you're like, well, they might give you 40, but at 66, I don't know if that's gonna get you there. Now 57 or 58, I think there's a chance that one of them get there if the game's competitive. Again, a little terrifying without Cade Cunningham if he doesn't play, but I don't mind having Grant or Bey on a team.
It's just if this, like, I don't disagree that it definitely can stay competitive, but if it does, I don't think it's going to be because Detroit is scoring a lot on Miami. I think it's going to be because Detroit is limiting Miami's offense.
Right. Miami's just laying an egg. Yeah,
exactly. So like, I think if it's a close game, it's more likely we see it at a 98-94 final as opposed to a 124-120 final, which all 3 of these other games I think have potential for.
I just want to last point mention how awesome Cade Cunningham has been in his last 8 games and how many an absurd amount of minutes they're playing him, but inexplicably, I don't know what's going on in Detroit. Like, why? 44 minutes of regulation last game. Like, what is the point? He was awesome. 23-9, 41 before that, 36, 43, 32, 38. His minutes are insane. Again, if he's not feeling well, maybe they wouldn't push him that many minutes. Maybe they won't play him at all. But it's just, if they're going to play him and give him like 38 minutes, I don't care who he's playing against, he's in play. And people just aren't going to play him because they're probably already scratched him out in their head already because, oh, well, he's either not going to play or I'm just going to ignore Detroit. I don't know, man. It's wild. He's been awesome of late. Just want to acknowledge that for tournaments, yada, yada. The hammer game.
I agree, especially on FanDuel where he's only 7,400. Like, it's going to be tough to get completely away from him if he is playing. I don't think I'm going to X out a lot of players from this game, but I do think I'm going to set a rule that I'm not going to play more than one per team.
Butler officially in, by the way, for what it's worth. Was there any sort of discussion about his toe? Phoenix at New Orleans, 231 is a total. Is a big number. Phoenix is a 4-point favorite. Front half of a back-to-back. I talked about this earlier today. Shenanigans probably aren't happening today. They're probably, they haven't happened all season long. Phoenix is a team that, for whatever reason, they just haven't rested anybody. They didn't even rest Chris Paul all season. Maybe one game. I don't think so, though. They are playing, they're 8 games in front of everybody else in the West. Like, chill, man. You guys won it. Just relax, coast on in there. You know, nobody's going to catch you. There's like 14 games left or whatever it is, but they're playing Houston tomorrow night. So just sort of like, it's interesting. Maybe the goofiness happens tomorrow. We'll see. Cam Johnson's still out. Chris Paul is still out. New Orleans expecting CJ McCollum back. Brandon Ingram, of course, is still out. Very similar price here, Luch, as far as Booker and McCollum. McCollum's going to be asked to do everything. Mikal Jail on the other side. Mikal Bridges, pretty solid defender, and he's on the weaker team. It's a tricky. I was doing my rankings today, and I don't remember which way I landed. I kind of flipped the coin because I don't know which one I like more. Do you feel strongly about Booker versus McCollum? Because I can see an argument both ways.
It's a price thing on FanDuel for me. Did they catch his price up on DK to FanDuel, or are we still like in the?
It's the
96?
same basically. Yeah. So McCollum's 9.4 on DK and Booker's 9.6 on DK. So it's essentially the same.
Yeah, on FanDuel, I'm just probably not going to get to a ton of Booker, and I'm going to have to live with it. If he goes off, he goes off. So for me, it's McCollum is a price thing, and I do really like the idea of playing a Brooklyn stud in that game with a Magic run back, and really just hope that game's competitive. I think a lot of my exposure is probably going to go there, and that's okay. We talked about, we were talking about kind of like playing to not lose earlier. Well, sometimes you have to be willing to die in DFS and know that tomorrow's a new day. And that's when I've had some of my bigger nights. So I'm not going to have a ton of Booker. I think Jay Crowder's kind of interesting for large field stuff. Again, 4-game slate. Only reason I'm really like mentioning Jay Crowder, but he's been pretty good. Didn't play the fourth quarter at all against LA. Without some of the body parts he mentioned. If this game's close, maybe he plays 34, 35 minutes. I think he has 6 to 7x upside in this matchup. Really won't have to worry about Brandon Ingram on that side of things. So Crowder's sneaky. He's been seeing a lot of sneaky volume since for Crowder's standards, I suppose. Again, he's a guy that kind of reminds me of like Robert Covington. He's just going to chuck threes, clanks a lot of them whenever you're watching. So maybe just don't watch if you play Jay Crowder. Just know he has like 6, 7x upside. I feel like there's certain guys whenever I watch on TV, the ball just doesn't go in. Danny Green. I've never seen Danny Green hit a 3-pointer once. Like
that's actually never happened. I mean, that's like all of us watching Danny.
All right,
Green.
I don't feel as crazy then. So
unless it's playoffs. Danny Green hits threes in the playoffs.
I hope so. But anyway, so it's a pricing for Booker for me. But I'll definitely probably be correlating some of the studs, running back in this game. And you're right. I mean, that is the scary thing. Like if you like Booker, just know that if there's some wonky stuff going on, there's nowhere to swap. There's nowhere to go. You mentioned it's a sprint slate, Dean. So, I guess you could pivot down and go to campaign because he'd have a super sweet usage, but you're eating, $3,000 on FanDuel. Like you're probably not going to win.
This is me just being the first guy speculating about tomorrow night. And like, if anything, I'm just saying they should rest guys, man. You're up by 8 games in the West. What are you doing? Just relax. But I'm just some schmuck on the couch.
This is one of the first places that Luch and I have really disagreed on this slate. I'm all over Booker tonight. Like, to me, he's the most under-owned player on the slate. I'm going to have a ton of lineups that have both McCollum and Booker, and I'm going to have a ton of lineups that have McCollum, Booker, and Kevin Durant. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to get a lot of these 5K, 6K guys tonight, because I think there's enough value to really stars and scrubs it, even on a 4-game slate. However, my superhero play of the day, brought to you by Agents of Fandom podcast, is CJ McCollum on the Pelicans side. When I was looking at this earlier in the day, I was really thinking he wasn't going to be this highly owned coming off of COVID, but the people get it. He missed less than a week. That tells me he probably was either asymptomatic or it was a false positive, something like that. And yeah, he's way too cheap for this role without Ingram in there. This is a 4-point spread. This is like, all these other spreads are big, and like the Indiana one may even get closer together now that Brogdon and all these guys are in, but this is the tightest spread on the slate. It's one of the 3 games with high totals that have ability to just like be super high scoring and go right down to the wire, competitive with all the starters in there. I love CJ McCollum, and I love pairing him with Devin Booker tonight.
You don't fear Mikal Jail?
I don't.
Yeah, even though it fits the rhyme scheme, it still doesn't. He's a good defender, but
he's a great individual defender. But the reason why I don't worry too much about it is when he's on the wing and he's chasing people off ball screens, those long arms, they do a ton of damage. It's really tough to get people the ball. But McCollum's going to be running point. And if they really want to get Bridges off of him, all they have to do is set ball screens at the top. And McCollum is so good at pulling up as soon as he gets the tightest bit of space. So I'm not worried about that at all tonight. The only thing that would have me at all worried is just like conditioning stuff, if like, just in case he was sick, but it was 5 days, 6 days. Like, I'm sure he's going to be fine. So I love McCollum, but one of my favorite game stacks of the entire day is Booker and Ayton with him. I think Ayton is going incredibly underlooked tonight. I think Booker's going incredibly underlooked tonight. This is my favorite game of the slate, I think.
Well, I just want to mention last 3 games with Booker back, and of course Chris Paul's been out for a while. I was looking at potential assists, and like campaigns, kind of, sort of, not exactly the same, but taking over that Chris Paul role. Potential assist the last 3 games on average campaign 14.7. Potential assist, and Booker at 13. Now, of course, the price has adjusted on Payne. He's pretty expensive now, but Booker's got a good shot to get himself, 6 or 7 assists as well. You catch on the right side of variance, maybe you get yourself a double as well on DK. We do have a bunch of questions loaded in here, and I think somebody made a theme out of these questions. If you can pick up on it, certainly TJ is going to be able to pick up.
Morant officially ruled out, by the way.
Say it again.
Morant is officially ruled out.
Okay, I thought you said Durant. I said, I heard Rant.
No, my bad. Yeah.
Can I add one? I got to rethink Booker, but I think more so is because I think Valanciunas is super interesting for large field stuff. I mean, I know he's at a cake schedule, but I sub 10% on a 4-gamer for a guy with 60-point upside. I know you're adding McCollum back in the fold, but you still don't have Ingram. 2 of his last 6 games, he's had 2 of his highest usages of the season. Okay, he's playing Phoenix. He had, what did he have? 25 and 16 against Phoenix earlier this year, and 18 and 17 in another game. I'm interested in Valanciunas tonight. I think that's my preferred run back in a large field, just because of that 7% ownership we haven't projected at. It's crazy.
TJ, I don't know if this is producer Devin having some fun asking these questions or somebody's actually asking these questions. I'm picking up on the theme of the show. But first question's for you. Building lineups one piece at a time. Who is your favorite stud to start your lineup with that won't leave you feeling Folsom Prison Jesus, I blew it. The Folsom Prison Blues.
Prison, not prism.
Yeah,
prison.
I know. I can't say that word. I don't know why I couldn't say. I know the song. I've watched the video, but yeah, Prison Blues. Why can I not say that appropriately? I got to go back to speech class.
There you go.
Your favorite stud to start your lineups with? Booker.
If we're going high value, Booker, but overall it's McCollum. But if you want somebody who is more expensive than that, then it's on FanDuel, it's Booker for me. But On DK, where they're similarly priced, it's Booker for contrarian, but it's McCollum for cash and single entry.
Same question, Luch. Who's your favorite stud? You can pick one side. I know, like, who's the one you think are going to be more overweight in the field as far as the studs?
Kevin Durant, but I'm playing Magic with him.
Another question for you, Luch. As far as DK tournaments, pick one of these. Would you rather have Brogdon or Cameron Payne or Brogdon? Which is a wild question. It's like, wow, Payne's that expensive now? Yep, he is, and he's earned it.
That's a tough one because, like, I like Payne as a standalone, but I like running Brogdon. I like running Brogdon if I'm playing a bunch of Grizzlies. So if you have a ton of Grizzlies, I'd lean Brogdon. But if you only have like 2, I'd play Payne.
I only ask because I think this is important. I know I asked this before, and somebody else wants us to reiterate. So, if you can sort of give us your favorite Memphis plays one more time, TJ. Again, I know this is a redundant question, but I think it's also kind of important. And maybe somebody stepped in a little bit late. They didn't watch the entire show. Power rank your Grizz. 1
is Jones by a mile. 2 for me is Brooks. 3 is like Durant or Jaren Jackson. Flip a coin. Or sorry, Durant, Bane or Jaren Jackson. Flip a coin. The reason why it's close, I like Jackson better, but I don't love small forward tonight. And then 4th, my favorite guy to kind of take a shot on is Brandon Clark.
Yeah, I like Clark as a kind of a shot in the dark. I think he's sort of interesting as a path, especially if are you making a rule as Triple J Clark in different lineups? Would you separate those two?
Yeah, I currently have a rule of Triple J, Clark, Kyle Anderson, and Steven Adams.
All right, a few more questions. Oh, we have more questions piling up here. Let me just kind of jump back to the page since I closed something out accidentally. I'm just saying words to buy.
Hey, I'll give you some words quick. I know you mentioned Desmond Bane has like a homecoming. I don't know if you saw the substance behind the homecoming, but allegedly he has like 200 people coming to watch him play tonight. If you're in the narrative.
Oh wow,
200.
Yeah, Bones Highland had like 600 or something like that last night. Oh. I know, terrible story with him. Like it was cool. I guess I don't know if anybody died in it. Hopefully nobody did. I'm not sure. But there was a fire like 4 years ago or so, and he was saved from the fire, and some of the firefighters are there. And like his favorite teacher from when he was a kid, I think they're from Delaware, Wilmington, I want to say. So that was kind of cool. So, wow. And he crushed last night. So it was good to see him shine out.
So you're saying it's going to happen again with Desmond Bane? Is that what you're saying? Are you implying?
Well, no, I'm not saying it's a correlation. I just wanted to acknowledge that was a cool story I thought last night. And now I'm a Bones fan. I've never heard him speak before. And I'm like, oh, this guy seems likable. All right. DK tournaments, Luch, Bamba or Drummond? Pick one of those 2.
Drummond.
All right. This is definitely a Devin question. This is for TJ. Who is the chalk that you think that God's gonna cut down? This is a reach for I guess the bad chalk, I think is what we're asking.
The bad chalk tonight. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna sort by projected ownership. To me, I think if Cade Cunningham plays and he's over 30% owned, that's the closest thing to bad chalk tonight. But I guess that entire game, Miami, Detroit, we're looking at on FanDuel, we got Adebayo, Butler, Cunningham, all projected to be in that 30% range. I'm going to be nowhere close to that.
Luch, what's your comfort level as far as fading KD, Kyrie individually or both?
On this slate, not good, not great. These guys have still had 60-point plus ceiling games with, while they were playing without James Harden when he was like having an off day. So just because they're both active, I don't think we should dismiss that neither of them could get there. Of course, blowout's a concern, but I like that as being a potential GPP winning, some kind of game stack formula.
Speaking of game stacks, give me your favorite game stack. There's only 4, obviously. TJ, favorite game stack you're starting with?
Phoenix, New Orleans.
You feel the same way, Luch?
No, I think I'm going Brooklyn, Orlando, but I will have pieces of that Phoenix, New Orleans game for sure.
Dean, are you
having said that? Like, I think today is a game stack day, and I love all 3 of the games for full game stacks, other than the Detroit Miami one.
Dean, did you leave off part of that question? I don't know if that was the full question.
Cade Cunningham out.
Oh, Cade Cunningham. Okay, officially out, and now I'm kind of jumping around, and I know I did not leave. I did miss something as far as a part of that question. Yeah, rank your favorite stacks to help me make it through the night. There you go. Devin did a
walking-
Google search. He learned
I'm walking
some
the line
songs.
with Phoenix, New Orleans tonight. I'm going down with them, or I'm hoping to find some treasure after I'm down. I don't know.
Are those more Johnny Cash songs?
I started with Walk the Line, and then
I
my
heard
brain
Walk the
started
Line.
going to Walk the Plank, and I don't know what happened.
Ring of Fire is something you probably could have bled into.
Yeah, I should have walked the line into the Ring of Fire, but it's
Who's
fine.
gonna make you hurt the most? It's not really his song, but it's kind of his song now, right?
Isaiah Jackson's making me hurt the most tonight when I have 35 to 40% of him, and then he gets 3 fouls in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, he's really handsy. Single entry contest. How
Or
many
Jaren
studs?
Jackson. Insert Jackson.
TJ, FanDuel. I know you're right.
I'm going to Jackson, and it's gonna hurt.
Oh, there
when
it
they
is.
get in
I'm
foul
going to-
trouble. Yes.
Isn't
Which
that the
Jackson?
female- isn't
All
that
the
female's
Jacksons.
line now?
Both, exactly. That's why it works. And I'm going to Jackson is a Johnny Cash song. So it's yeah. If you're going to Jackson, you're gonna be hurt tonight when they both get in foul trouble, but I will be there with you.
What is this show turned into? Hey, TJ, single entry tournament on FanDuel. How many studs? Well, what's the appropriate number of studs to have in a lineup? I'm running optimal stuff, just kind of see what's kind of spit out. Well, Cunningham's in the first one. That is going to change.
If you include McCollum as a stud at only like in the 8K range there, I think it's 3. Like I'm planning on going. I think in my main lineup, I'm probably going to have Durant, McCollum, and Booker.
Luch, do you consider a potential blowout in Dragic getting more play time? Who gets to start? Feels like Goran has his minutes back. Yeah, it's tricky, and that's the answer kind of is just like wait and see what the starting lineup is, right? I think.
I don't know who they're going to roll out there, but I really don't think it's going to be Dragic or Mills in a blowout. I don't know. Like, who's more? They're both important pieces to this team. I know Cam is out, so I don't know what they're going to do either. Like, I know TJ said like, "Oh, is David Duke going to?" I mean, I don't care. I don't
think
know
he's
who
available. I think he's in the G League from what I can see.
I don't know who it's going to be. So I'm just grouping Mills and Dragic separately. I think we talked about that. I think TJ even said group Kyrie, Dragic, and Mills as a max of 1 kind of thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a tough one. I don't think Dragic will see more run in a blowout. To be honest, I think it needs to be fairly competitive, and he just needs to get hot.
DK thoughts as far as Indiana situation. Just give me this, TJ. Your favorite tournament play in Indiana? Is it still Isaiah?
On DK, not as much, just because he doesn't have that same stock upside. So on DK, I guess probably Brogdon would be my favorite one.
Somebody's asking who my guy is. I think I might play like a pinch of Magruder on TK. He's still minimum, and I think he's gonna have to play.
And the one thing I want to go back to, sorry, if Batatse's out, I always like Jackson better on FanDuel, and I always like Jalen Smith better on DK, just because Jalen Smith always seems to be priced up more on FanDuel, and the scoring system for Jackson is fantastic on FanDuel. And whereas their prices are close together on DK, and that scoring system doesn't suit Jackson as much. So if Batatse's out, I always like Jalen Smith better on DK and Isaiah Jackson better on FanDuel.
Detroit down the 9 bodies, and we're projecting Magruder to start. He's 3K on DK, he's 3.5 on FanDuel. It's a revenge game. Man, that's not as sneaky as I thought it was in my head, but like he might be popping all of a sudden. We got to step aside and get out here and make way for crunch time. Producer Devin's going to kick us off in a second. Do appreciate y'all watching. Hit that like button if you're watching us on YouTube. Do subscribe. Do turn on notifications. Tomorrow is going to be a massive, massive slate for TJ, for Luch, for Devin. I was Dean. That was basketball. Thanks for watching. We're out of here. Oh.